really, really exciting. I'm really glad to be here, and especially to be with Eden and Pico, a travel writer. Come on, who calls him a travel writer? Pico, I have always considered you like a philosopher, a joining of hands, whether it's a border of mortality and you know, like life and death, whether it's country to country, whether it's person to person. I've always seen you as a philosopher, so this is very exciting to be here with you. All right. Well, I don't know how you guys memorized everything, bunch of overachievers. Let's get going. So I finally get the courage to leave the house, and she is waiting for me, lurking. No, not her, the other one. Okay, I realize that this is Barbecue Becky, but bear with me, okay? I think you want the other one, she says with her homicidal helpfulness. And she, of course, is the white woman. I'm standing outside a change room, dreading one of the many death-defying stunts awaiting me. Presto! Watch me remove my genders and witness my disappearing act. Do I want the other one, is what I ask her, and she looks all confused. You know what I want better than I do, is what I tell her. I should be paying you instead of my psychologist. And then she starts staring blankly. She's like, and I said to her, may I see your ID? And she's like, excuse me? And I said, you're the gender police, right? You are required to show your ID. Then she's like, I'm sorry, but, and she has the nerve to gesture at my body as if there's something wrong. And I said to her, listen, lady, there's nothing wrong with me. The only thing wrong here is your ignorance. Down straight, lady. Now here's the thing. Before Bathroom Beverly, we all know that she's not an anomaly, right? Before Bathroom Beverly tells me where I can go, I'm interrogated constantly about where I'm from. Not that the answer makes any real difference. Look at this is so pathetic. Look at that. Do you see that? That's me. This is what an adult teacher did to me. They put me in this costume when I was in grade 4 because you're from India, right? It's perfect. It's perfect. And then me. Well, like, the outfit's cool, but I'm not like that kind of like what you guys call Indian, but like, I know, honey. I know that, dear. But you are, Indian, right? Well, sort of. And then begins my painful history lesson to the white teacher about British colonialism. From me, that little dopey kid. I didn't have you back then, Pico. I didn't have you back then. Let's talk about those lovely British. More than just Marks and Spencer and Cadbury. They are spectacular criminals, moving into someone else's home, abducting, torturing, abusing their children, stealing entire land masses, decimating people and ecosystems, and then turning around and labeling us depraved, immoral, dangerous. Regulating our bodies and demanding that we show documents when we leave our place. Bloody hell, I wish that we had asked for documents when they showed up in India. And here to them is my little theme song. Mera juta made in China, ye padloon made in Sri Lanka. Sar pe jhool in the crown, taddan chori. Phir bhi dil hai English Rani. There she is, Elizabeth, the thieving queen. You see that thing in her head there? You see that? That is the Kohinoor diamond. That's our diamond. We want it back. Indiano hero pacho apido. Elizabeth, intergenerational white colonial sociopath, sitting with India's diamond in her disgusting dopi, and all I got from my intergenerational colonial trauma was Coronation Street. I can still hear my ba, Kalyani ek cup chai bana di dena Coronation Street aave chamat program. Pico, I tell you, you really did save me. With your ferocious and elegant interrogation of the idea of a static hometown, God, I wish I had that when Miss Simandas put me in that play. Naturally, one of the worst things you could be called in my mother's house was Thoria Jeva, like a white person. Now, one day it came to pass that Papa found me digging for buried treasure in someone else's yard. Which, I mean, this is the whitest thing you could do on the entire planet. So I heard this, he took me out of school and we went to India for 16 weeks where he took me from STEM to, he wanted me to see everything, he wanted me to learn everything, he wanted to undo the damage that had been caused to make his kid behave in this fashion. Now, what I remember the most is Khajuraho. The mandirs in Khajuraho. I remember them for a couple of reasons, but for one thing, Papa ordered fresh squeezed orange juice every morning in the middle of that desert, and my mommy warned him it was going to be cost prohibitive. And when the bill came, this is so true, he goes, "Baap re baap, ketla rupya?" And my mother goes, "Tamne શું લાગે છે? અમે ફ્લોરિડામાં બેઠા છે? આ કઈ McCain Canada નથી, okay?" Which means, holy crap, look at this bill. And then my mom, where do you think we are, Florida? Do you think there's a McCain Canada factory here? So in between arguments over the cost and availability of orange juice, my prepubescent self saw delicate, exquisite, masterful artwork that simultaneously ignited my passion, imagination, and set my loins on fire. Yeah, I was a little kid. Magnificent bodies, rich in female signifiers, male signifiers, every combination thereof, entwined in luxurious, erotic expressions, creations, the forces of life on sacred spiritual structures, structures of worship. And there was Ardhineshwara, a beautiful being with one full round breast, supple flat muscular chest, erect penis, full soft round curvy hips. I had never seen a being like this before. I stared absolutely agog. Who was this being? What were these artists saying? Mummy astutely saw that a spell was being cast on her pubescent child, and she quickly intervened. Jo, wo excited not, huh? A bada chene yoga kare che. Don't get so excited, they're just doing yoga. Quickly, she said, "Chalo, 100 rupiya na ek tikoda glass orange juice piya naga tha. Let's go all have, $100 glasses of orange juice." Now, I knew a thing or two about yoga, okay, even at 11 years old, because like all of us back then, I was dutifully sent to the Hindu Society of Manitoba's summer camp, where Professor Venkatraman was charged with our spiritual development. Nirvana, it turns out, is much more than a white Seattle grunge band. Listen, I'll be completely honest with you here. For me, Nirvana was watching the Bengali girl I planned to marry, Rini, do her Nadesha Govadam. My gods, that was all the enlightenment I ever needed. Even Professor Venkatraman, although lacking in Lululemon outfits, very, very vigorous in his instruction, had never shown me yoga poses like I saw in Gujarat. At that time, I was attending a Catholic school. I had never seen or imagined the testicles of Jesus. But at Khajuraho, I suddenly thought, why wouldn't Catholics boast about the genitals of their God? The son of a God? He's got to be huge. The balls of Christ compel you. The balls of Christ compel you. No matter how much Mummy protested or how many tiny, tiny expensive glasses of orange juice I drank, those images were now carved into the temple of my 11-year-old, pretty horny brain. Those images grabbed me. They stayed with me in a way that only one other image ever has. Look at that. That beautiful being. In fact, it was the same Professor Venkatraman who told me the very Jordan Peele-esque tale of Ganpati's origins. Briefly, and asking Professor Venkatraman's forgiveness, the story goes, it came to pass that Parvati fashioned a child out of dirt. Now, as Professor Venkatraman told it, it could have been her own body dirt as well as the earth, okay, like from the earth. And she tasked this child with guarding her privacy as she took her bath. And as it came to pass, Shiva returned home after an absence and was met by what he felt was an insolent child of suspicious origins, denying him entry into his own lover's bath. This child insisted he was Parvati's own son, therefore Lord Shiva's son. And as any good Gujarati parent might do, he consulted the Psychology Today manual and beheaded the boy. Only to discover that the boy was telling the truth. Parvati was devastated and she shrieked in anguish and in rage. Lord Shiva, deeply penitent, restored their son with the head of a passing elephant. The horror of that tale for me was not the beheading of the boy, nor the destruction of the unfortunate elephant, as gross and therefore kind of cool as that part was for me. But it chilled me that a parent wouldn't recognize their own child. Even if this was a mud baby, if Professor Venkatraman had explained, surely Parvati had inadvertently imbued some genetic self-attraction into her sculpture. That feeling of being unrecognizable to a parent was with me that day in Khajuraho. I knew. I had always known. I knew what I was looking at that day. In that sculpture, in those erotic expressions, and in Aradhineshwara, I was in that artwork. It was the first time I'd seen what I'd known about myself from the very, very, very beginning. It was powerful and it was terrifying. Because one day it came to pass that Mummy discovered that I was doing the yoga of Khajuraho with a girl I loved. Mummy wasn't terribly impressed that I'd attained nirvana. She shrieked like Parvati in anguish and in rage. She told me I was a curse for her past life sins. She told me I was an unnatural monster. She told me that I was the product of the diseased West. And no amount of my pleading, of my insisting that I am her child, I am of her own body, I am of this earth, helped me. She wouldn't recognize me. And as it came to pass, I was beheaded. I left my mother's house, and I've never been back. You know, 2 years ago at this very festival, Kamala Shamji explained in her talk, Shakespeare in India, that for the British, the success of their colonial agenda was measured in part by the proliferation of their mother tongue, English. As a byproduct of British success, Mummy, Papa, and I became refugees, leaving everything we loved and everyone we knew behind. That's Mummy. See how she's scowling over there by the car? Papa is represented by the topi on top of the car. And that person holding the small baby is my beloved Sheila Foy, and she's holding me. And she's so precious. It wasn't long before Gujarati became as much a memory for me as my home in Kampala. Here, before the beheading, which would eventually follow, was another amputation. My tongue, my mother tongue. I call it mother tongue not to gender it, but because it is the language I spoke with my mother. I love Gujarati. It sounds exactly like what it's describing. Vomit, ulti. That's perfect. A slap, tapat. Perfection. Mercifully, Tara Ben Sampat taught Gujarati school for the Gujarati Cultural Society of Manitoba. Every Saturday I was enrolled, staring at the Gujarati girl, Shilpa, whom I planned to marry. I repeated, ga, ka, ga, ga, da, 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 ta. I had to concentrate. It was serious. There was no daydreaming about Shilpa in that class. Tara Ben Sampat would catch you. But every weekday, staring at the Ukrainian girl, Christina, whom I planned to marry, I repeated A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y. It was so damn easy. I let my mind wander. The thoughts of Christina, her pool parties, the weird foods her family ate, oysters, her strange last name, Barwinski. And people thought Pandya was alien? Saturday after Saturday, one day, it came to pass. Tara Ben Sampat, like Shiva before her, performed a great feat of strength. She restored my mother tongue. For me, conjuring the future is about bringing forth my pasts, waking from a deeply sinister spell which posits my great losses as someone else's great gains. A communal nightmare which we are all still having. The kind of trickery which has absolutely convinced people, maybe even Professor Venkatraman, that home is one fixed place which you are never allowed to leave unless, of course, you are white, and that gender is two fixed points which you are never allowed to navigate in between, upside down, sideways, and around, as well as you bloody damn well please. The greatest fraud ever perpetrated has been the theft of self-definition, that sacred sovereignty, the right to create ourselves, make ourselves, and make ourselves at homes. This festival has been such a home for me, even though Sirish never puts me up in a fancy hotel. It is a place where nobody asks me where I'm from or tells me where I can go. It's where I am, always. Sometimes, why? And I thank you.